Welcome back to World Information HD, where hidden treasures lie in the most unexpected places. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of US coin collecting, looking at how a humble 1-cent coin can become a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. The iconic Lincoln Wheat penny, circulating from 1909 to 1958, might look like pocket change, but in rare cases, thanks to minting mistakes, key dates, and ultra-low survival numbers, some specimens are valued at millions of dollars. Whether you're a casual collector or someone who simply sorts through old change, you'll want to stay tuned. You could be holding a fortune without even knowing it. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intriguing coins ever struck by the U.S. Mint, the 1955 D Mint Mark Lincoln Wheat penny. At first glance, this 1-cent coin looks simple. Just a small piece of copper featuring the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. But what if I told you that hidden among these pennies are some worth thousands of dollars, all because of subtle details, minting errors, and condition grades that most people overlook? So sit back, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why coin collectors and numismatists are so fascinated by this 1955 Denver minted penny. And you'll know what to look for if you happen to have one tucked away in your drawer or jar of old coins. The story of the 1955 D Lincoln Wheat penny begins during a fascinating period in American history. The year was 1955. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, the country was recovering from the post-war era, and coins were being minted in massive quantities to fuel a booming economy. The Denver Mint, identified by its small D Mint mark located just below the date, was working around the clock. It was a time of mass production, where millions upon millions of Lincoln cents poured out of the presses. In fact, over 563 million of these pennies were struck at the Denver Mint alone. But what makes this particular penny so interesting is not just how many were made, but the small differences that separate a common coin from a collector's dream. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, or front, we see the ever-familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The image shows Lincoln facing right, with the word liberty to his left, and the motto "In God We Trust" arching across the top. The date 1955, followed by the small D Mint mark for Denver, sits neatly near the bottom right. On the reverse, we have the simple yet powerful wheat ears design. Two stylized stalks of wheat curving along the sides, framing the inscriptions 1 cent, United States of America, and the national motto E Pluribus Unum. This wheat reverse design remained a beloved part of U.S. coinage from 1909 all the way to 1958. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Even though the 1955 D penny might look like any other, certain varieties and rare errors have transformed some of these coins into small fortunes. And collectors are constantly on the hunt for these rare versions that stand out from the ordinary. One of the key things collectors pay attention to when evaluating any coin is its minting errors. And the 1955 D Wheat penny has a few that can dramatically raise its value. For instance, some coins from this year are known for repunched mint marks, often abbreviated as RPMs. This occurs when the D Mint mark was punched into the dime more than once, creating a noticeable doubling effect. Sometimes the two impressions overlap slightly, while in other cases, they appear side by side or slightly above or below one another. If you look closely with a magnifying glass or under good lighting, you might notice the faint shadow of a second D Mint mark, and if you do, you're holding something special. Then there's the die cracks and die breaks, where tiny raised lines appear on the coin due to worn-out dies at the mint. These imperfections can sometimes take on unusual shapes, even resembling letters or outlines, and some collectors find them incredibly appealing because each one is unique. But as any collector will tell you, the condition of the coin, known as its grade, plays a massive role in determining its worth. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by organizations like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. A grade of 1 means the coin is barely identifiable, heavily worn, and missing most of its design. A grade of 70 means the coin is in perfect, flawless condition, exactly as it came off the minting press. Most 1955 D pennies you find in circulation today are in lower grades, showing signs of wear from years of use. But if you happen to have a mint state or uncirculated coin, one that still has its original luster, no scratches, and crisp details, that's where the value begins to rise steeply. Imagine pulling out an old coin from a jar that hasn't seen the light of day in decades, brushing off the dust, and realizing it gleams like the day it was made. That's the kind of discovery that excites collectors around the world. Another thing to consider is toning, the natural color change that happens to a coin's surface over time due to oxidation. Some 1955 pennies develop a beautiful red or rainbow-like patina, which can actually increase their desirability if the toning appears even and attractive. Coins that maintain their full red color, as they appeared when freshly minted, are especially prized. These are labeled red or RD by grading companies and often fetch the highest prices. Meanwhile, those with a more subdued reddish-brown color are labeled RB, and darker brown coins are BN. Even this subtle difference can affect the final price of your penny by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now, let's talk about the thrill of the hunt. Many coin enthusiasts get hooked on searching for these pennies because they could literally be hiding anywhere, in old coffee cans, forgotten boxes in the attic, inherited coin collections, or even loose change at the bottom of a drawer. What's fascinating about the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny is that it bridges the world between the common and the rare. On one hand, it's an ordinary coin millions once used every day. On the other, it holds the potential to surprise you with incredible value if you find the right variation in the right condition. That's why coin collectors call it a gateway coin. It's often the piece that draws people into the fascinating world of numismatics. But here's something even more intriguing. The 1955 penny is often mistaken for its famous cousin, the 1955 double-die penny. Minted in Philadelphia, a coin legendary for its extreme doubling on the date and inscriptions. While the 1955 does not feature that dramatic doubling, certain Denver Mint examples show subtle doubled dies, particularly on the lettering or numbers. These are much rarer and command higher prices among serious collectors. So if you own a 1955 penny, it's always worth examining it under magnification or even having it professionally appraised. You might be sitting on something more valuable than you think. Now let's move on to another important factor: historical context and sentimental value. Each coin is a piece of history, a tangible artifact that's survived through time. The 1955 wheat penny carries with it the story of post-war America, a nation growing rapidly, with people saving coins in jars for their children's future. Imagine all the hands this penny might have passed through: a factory worker buying his morning coffee, a child trading pennies for candy at the corner store, or a young collector adding it to their first album of coins. That's what makes these small copper discs so captivating. They connect us to the lives and stories of those who came before us. Today, the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny remains a must-have for any serious coin collector. It marks one of the final years of the beloved wheat reverse design before the mint transition to the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. That shift alone makes the 1955 penny historically significant. It represents the end of an era, a final chapter in one of America's most iconic coin designs. And because of that, the demand for high-grade examples continues to climb year after year. Even those who aren't coin collectors are beginning to recognize the investment potential in coins like this one. Some see them as pieces of art, others as financial assets, but all agree that they're pieces of history you can hold in your hand. So, if you ever come across a 1955 Lincoln wheat penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Check for repunched mint marks, doubling, or unusual toning. Then, check its condition. Does it shine like new? Are the edges sharp and the details crisp? If so, you might just have something extraordinary. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious beginner, finding one of these coins in excellent condition can be a thrilling and rewarding experience. Welcome back to World Information HD, the channel where every coin tells a story, and every story might just turn into a fortune in your hands. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in the United States, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny. This little copper coin might look like any other penny sitting in your change jar, But what if I told you that one of these small brown coins could be worth an astonishing amount of money? So sit tight, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes this coin so valuable, how to spot rare errors, and why collectors are paying unbelievable prices for this iconic piece of American history. Let's start our journey back in time, to the mid-1950s. The year is 1956. America was booming, Elvis Presley ruled the airwaves, and President Dwight D. Eisenhower was leading the nation through a period of optimism and industrial growth. In the city of Denver, the U.S. Mint was working non-stop, striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies with the small D mint mark under the date, the 1950 D penny. More than 1 billion of these coins were produced, making it one of the higher mintages of the wheat cent era. But here's where the story gets interesting. Despite the massive number produced, not all 1950 pennies are created equal. Some contain rare minting errors or special conditions that make them worth a small fortune today. The Lincoln Wheat Cent, designed by Victor David Brenner, had already become one of America's most beloved coins. Introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin was the first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of an actual person, the 16th President of the United States. The design features Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks curving along the back, symbolizing prosperity and unity. It's a simple yet powerful design that remained on the penny until 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1950 version of this coin stand out. While the Denver Mint produced over 1.09 billion of these pennies, certain factors, like mint errors, die varieties, and preservation, can drastically affect their value. A normal circulated 1950 penny might only fetch a few cents, but uncirculated and error varieties can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Collectors are particularly drawn to the sharp, brilliant red examples that still glow with their original copper luster. Those are the coins that can transform from pocket change to treasure. But what exactly are these errors and varieties we keep hearing about? Let's explore the fascinating world of minting mistakes that make some of these coins so valuable. First, the most famous error associated with the 1950 Lincoln Cent is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. During the minting process in the 1950s, mint marks were hand-punched into the die, which means that sometimes they were accidentally struck more than once in slightly different positions. The result? A D over D effect that's clearly visible under magnification. Some RPM varieties show a shadow-like doubling around the mint mark, while others show dramatic separation that's visible even to the naked eye. Collectors go wild for these varieties, especially when they're well preserved in brilliant condition. Another error that drives collectors crazy is the die crack or cut error. This occurs when part of the die, the metal stamp used to strike the coin, breaks or chips during production, leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. These can appear along Lincoln's portrait, in the fields, or on the reverse along the wheat ears. The more dramatic and visible the cud, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there's the double die obverse, DDO, one of the holy grails of coin errors. Although rare for the 1950 penny, there are examples where the date or parts of the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust appear doubled. This kind of doubling happens when the die shifts slightly between impressions during production, creating a shadowed or doubled effect. If you ever find one like this in your pocket change, you might want to keep it under lock and key. Another thing to keep in mind is the condition of the coin. Coin collectors, or numismatists, grade coins based on their state of preservation. This is measured on a scale from 1 to 70, called the Sheldon scale. A coin graded MS-60 or above, that's mint state, means it shows no signs of wear from circulation. Coins with a full original red color, designated as RD by grading services, are especially prized. Even a slight change in tone from red to brown can significantly impact its market value. Let's take a closer look at how the value of the 1950 penny changes across different grades. In circulated condition, this coin might sell for as little as 10 to 20 cents. In uncirculated grades like MS-63 or MS-64, it can bring anywhere between $3 and $10. But once you hit the upper range, coins graded MS-67 or higher, the price can skyrocket. In fact, some examples with blazing red color and flawless surfaces have sold for thousands of dollars in auctions. Now, you might be wondering, with over 1 billion minted, how can a single penny be worth so much? The answer lies in rarity, demand, and perfection. Even though the mintage was massive, time hasn't been kind to these coins. Many were lost, damaged, corroded, or simply spent into oblivion. Finding one in near-perfect, gem condition today is like finding a needle in a haystack. Add to that the element of minting errors or unique varieties, and suddenly you have a collectible gem that every serious numismatist wants to own. Collectors are especially passionate about Lincoln cents because they represent more than just money, they're pieces of history. Each coin passed through the hands of Americans during a transformative era. When cars were becoming common, televisions were a household staple, and the Cold War loomed in the background. Holding one of these pennies is like holding a tiny time capsule from 1956, a connection to an era long gone. So, if you happen to find a 1950-60 penny in your coin jar or tucked away in an old box from your grandparents' attic, don't dismiss it. The first thing you should do is check the mint mark closely under a magnifying glass. Look for doubling, repunching, or odd shapes around the D. Next, examine the overall color. Is it brown, red-brown, or bright red? And most importantly, check for luster, scratches, and surface marks. If you think it's special, you can send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for evaluation. When graded by professionals and encapsulated in a protective holder, these coins not only gain authenticity but also significantly increase in value. Serious collectors and investors often prefer certified coins because the grade and condition are guaranteed. And once certified, your coin becomes a part of the formal numismatic record, a real piece of American monetary history. Now, let's talk about the cultural and emotional side of coin collecting. For many, it's not just about profit, it's about passion, history, and discovery. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series, which ran from 1909 to 1958, is one of the most collected series in the world. From the famous 1909 SVDB to the elusive 1922 No D, these coins tell the story of American minting, craftsmanship, and era-making. The 1956 D is one of the final years of the wheat design, making it especially sentimental for collectors who love to complete their sets. Many coin enthusiasts also view these old wheat pennies as small works of art. The detail in Lincoln's profile, the balance of design, and the rustic beauty of the wheat stalks make them timeless pieces of American artistry. Even if your 1950-60 penny isn't worth a fortune, it still carries a rich story, a legacy of craftsmanship that links generations of Americans through one small copper disc. Imagine this, somewhere out there, hidden in a forgotten coin roll or tucked in an old piggy bank, could be a flawless 1950-60 penny waiting to be discovered. A coin that survived nearly 7 decades in pristine condition, untouched by time, that could sell for an extraordinary amount. These discoveries still happen today. Everyday people stumble upon rare coins that change their lives. So before you spend your next penny, take a closer look. You might be holding history, or even a treasure worth far more than its face value. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the smallest details can mean the difference between 1 cent and a collector's dream come true. And now, here's the part you've been waiting for: the highest recorded value of a rare and perfectly preserved United States of America 1950-60 Lincoln Wheat Penny. One of these magnificent coins was sold for an incredible $44,556. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1-cent coin reaching a value of $44,556. Welcome to World Information HD, your trusted source for uncovering the most fascinating, rare, and valuable coins hiding in plain sight across the United States. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most legendary and mysterious coins that continues to capture the imagination of collectors everywhere: the United States of America 1957 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. You might have seen this coin thousands of times in old collections or even tucked away in your spare change. But what if we told you that this small copper coin could be worth an astonishing fortune? Stay tuned until the end of this video, because you'll be shocked to learn what a single 1957 wheat penny can be worth in today's collector's market. The 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny belongs to one of the most beloved coin series in American history, the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which was produced from 1909 until 1958. These coins are easily recognizable by the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the classic wheat ears design on the reverse, symbolizing America's prosperity. For nearly 50 years, this coin represented not only currency but also a piece of national pride, circulating through the hands of Americans during wars, recoveries, and milestones. Now, let's talk about the 1957 D specifically. The D mint mark stands for Denver, meaning that this coin was minted at the Denver Mint, one of the main production facilities for U.S. coins. During that year, an incredible number of 1,051,342,000 pennies were struck, over a billion coins. So, at first glance, the 1957 D penny doesn't sound rare at all. But as every seasoned collector knows, rarity isn't always about how many coins were made, it's about how many survived in pristine, untouched condition, and how many were struck with unusual errors or exceptional qualities that make them unique. When you take a close look at the 1957 D wheat penny, you'll notice that it's composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a composition that gives it that rich reddish-brown shine when it's in excellent condition. Over time, though, these coins often darken or develop natural patina due to exposure to air and moisture. That's why finding a 1957 D penny in mint state condition, with full red luster and no scratches, is incredibly rare, and that's what skyrockets its value among collectors. Let's talk about the design for a moment. On the obverse side, you'll see the right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, accompanied by the inscriptions, "In God We Trust." Above, Liberty, to the left, and the date, 1957, along with the small D mint mark below it. This side of the coin represents honor, leadership, and legacy. On the reverse side, we find two stylized wheat ears framing the bold lettering 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum inscribed along the top, Latin for out of many one. It's a design that not only stood the test of time but also carried deep meaning about unity and prosperity. But what makes some 1957 D pennies worth far more than others? The secret lies in the coin's grade, rarity of preservation, and any unique minting errors it may possess. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless, perfect example. Most 1957 D pennies found in circulation would grade somewhere between very fine, VF, and extremely fine, XF, meaning they show light to moderate wear. However, if you come across a coin graded as mint state, MS, especially MS 65 or higher, you're looking at something truly special. There have been several fascinating varieties and errors discovered on 1957 D wheat pennies over the years, and these are what excite collectors the most. One of the most notable is the double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin imprints the designs slightly offset more than once. This can result in letters, numbers, or details appearing doubled, especially noticeable on the date or on Liberty. Another popular variety is the repunched mint mark RPM, where the D was struck more than once, resulting in a slightly shadowed or overlapping appearance. These error coins can easily multiply the coin's value by hundreds or even thousands of times, depending on how prominent the doubling or repunching is. You might also come across 1957 D wheat pennies that have retained their original red luster, a bright coppery shine that collectors prize above all. Over time, most pennies tone to a brown or red-brown color, so finding one with 100% original red color means it was either carefully stored or barely handled since the day it left the mint. Those are the coins that command the highest prices in auctions and private sales. Now, let's imagine you come across a 1957 D wheat penny in your possession. How can you determine if it's valuable? First, check its color. If it's bright red with no major spots, scratches, or discoloration, you might have something worth grading. Next, inspect it carefully for any doubling or mint mark errors using a magnifying glass. Look closely at the D, the word Liberty, and the numbers and the date. If you spot any unusual doubling, that could be your ticket to a rare find. Lastly, if you think your coin is in exceptional condition, it might be worth sending to a professional grading service such as PCGS or NGC. Having your coin officially graded can dramatically increase its credibility and market value. Collectors and investors alike are always on the lookout for these coins because they represent a final chapter in the wheat penny era. By 1959, the U.S. Mint replaced the wheat design with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, marking the end of an era. That's why late-date wheat pennies, especially from 1956 to 1958, have gained popularity among those who cherish the classic look and history of America's copper coinage. The 1957 D penny has also become a favorite among beginner collectors because it's relatively easy to find in circulated condition, but extremely difficult to find in perfect mint state. This dual nature, being both common and rare, gives it a unique charm. It's a coin that connects everyday Americans to the golden age of coinage, while also offering a glimmer of hope that one lucky find could lead to a life-changing discovery point. One of the fascinating things about the 1957 D penny is how it tells the story of post-war America. It was minted during a time of economic growth, optimism, and transformation. The country was moving into a new era of technology, highways, and innovation. Millions of these pennies passed through diners, gas stations, and payphones, carrying with them stories of everyday life in the 1950s. When you hold one in your hand today, you're not just holding copper, you're holding a piece of living history. Over the decades, collectors have reported remarkable finds of 1957 D pennies in uncirculated rolls or old bank bags that were forgotten in attics or safe deposit boxes. Some of these rolls have yielded gems, coins so pristine that grading experts describe them as having full mint bloom, sharp strike details, and no carbon spotting. These coins, when submitted to grading services, often come back with MS66 or MS67 grades, which makes their value soar at auctions. Speaking of auctions, some of the highest prices ever paid for 1957 D wheat pennies have occurred when exceptional specimens hit the open market. Collectors who specialize in high-grade Lincoln cents are willing to pay top dollar for coins that have near-perfect surfaces and vibrant color. There have been instances where coins sold for thousands of dollars because they represented one of the best-known examples in existence. Even if your 1957 D penny isn't in flawless condition, it can still be worth more than face value. Clean, sharp examples with strong details and good eye appeal are always desirable. Coins with interesting errors or beautiful toning can fetch premium prices too. It's a market where beauty, rarity, and condition all come together to determine the true worth of a single cent. So, before you dismiss those old wheat pennies in your drawer or coin jar, take a closer look. You might be sitting on a little copper treasure that carries not only monetary value but also historical significance. Each mark, each gleam of red, each curve of the wheat ears tells a story of a nation and its people. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the astonishing value that one perfect example of this coin can command. A rare, high-grade 1957 D Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny, with flawless red luster and exceptional condition, has been sold for an unbelievable amount of $51,287. Yes, you've heard that right. A single 1-cent coin turning into a treasure worth over $51,000. So, next time you come across an old penny, don't just see it as small change. See it as a potential piece of history and fortune waiting to be discovered. Who knows, maybe your lucky penny is worth more than you ever imagined. Welcome to World Information HD, your trusted source for everything fascinating, valuable, and mysterious about the coins hiding in your pocket, drawers, or even in your change jar. Today, we're uncovering the extraordinary story of a small yet priceless piece of American history, the 1958 D Mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it's just a 1-cent coin, a simple copper-colored penny that many people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. But what if I told you that this ordinary-looking coin could be worth thousands of dollars? What if the penny sitting quietly in your coin jar is actually a hidden treasure from the past, forged during one of the most iconic periods in American minting history? Let's dive deep into the remarkable world of the 1958 Lincoln Wheat penny and find out what makes it so valuable, so mysterious, and so irresistible to collectors around the world. The story begins in 1958, the final year that the United States Mint produced the beloved wheat penny design. For nearly half a century, the Lincoln wheat cent had symbolized not only Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy but also the strength of the American spirit. These coins, with their distinctive wheat stalks on the reverse, had circulated through the hands of millions, from factory workers to farmers, from soldiers returning home to children buying their first candy bars. Each coin was a tiny piece of history, a witness to decades of change, progress, and hope. But in 1958, things were about to change forever. The U.S. Mint in Denver was preparing to close the curtain on this historic design and make way for a brand new look, the Lincoln Memorial Cent that would debut the following year. That made the 1958 wheat penny the final production run of this design. Collectors today often refer to it as the last of the classics, the end of an era where coins were crafted with true artistry and meaning. Now, let's talk about what makes this coin so special. The D Mint mark beneath the date tells us that this penny was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado, one of the most active mints in U.S. history. In 1958, the Denver Mint struck a staggering 800 million wheat pennies, making it one of the highest mintages in the entire series. With such a large number produced, you might wonder, how could a 1958 penny possibly be rare or valuable? Well, here's where things get interesting. While most 1958 pennies are common and worth only a few cents, certain ones have exceptional qualities that make them incredibly desirable to collectors. It's all about condition, rarity, and minting errors. First, condition plays a massive role. Coins that were never circulated, meaning they were preserved in pristine, unhandled condition straight from the mint, are called mint state coins. These are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC. A 1958 penny in mint state 65 or higher, especially with full red luster and no spots, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But once you reach those ultra-gem conditions, MS67 or MS68, that's when the real money starts flowing in. These coins shine like newly struck copper, their surfaces glowing with the fiery red hue of pure copper brilliance. Now, let's take it one step further: error coins. The U.S. Mint is known for its precision, but even machines make mistakes. And when they do, those errors can turn a simple penny into a collector's dream. Some 1958 pennies are known to have rare die errors, things like double dies, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes. The most famous among collectors are the 1958 double die varieties, where the letters or numbers appear doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. These errors are extremely rare and can command incredible prices in the coin market. Imagine finding one of those in your old coin jar or your grandparents' collection, a coin that looks like every other penny at first, but under a magnifying glass, reveals a fascinating flaw that makes it one of a kind. That's the magic of coin collecting: history, rarity, and luck all wrapped into one small copper disc. Another factor that adds to the 1958 penny's appeal is nostalgia. For collectors, this coin isn't just about metal and mint marks, it's about the end of an era. The wheat penny design, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909, was America's tribute to Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. The design itself was revolutionary for its time, featuring the portrait of a real historical figure rather than the symbolic images of liberty used on earlier coins. It became a symbol of patriotism and progress, a constant reminder of Lincoln's leadership during America's darkest times. By 1958, the world had changed dramatically since the first wheat penny rolled off the presses. The United States was entering a new modern age: space exploration, television, automobiles, and the birth of suburbia. The wheat penny, with its old-fashioned elegance, represented a different time, and that's why collectors love it so deeply. Holding a 1958 Dewey penny is like holding the final heartbeat of an American icon. Let's also talk about metal composition, something that plays a surprising role in a coin's value. The 1958 Dewey penny is made primarily of copper, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That gives it that warm, reddish tone that modern pennies no longer have. After 1982, the U.S. Mint changed the composition to mostly zinc with a thin copper coating, making pre-1982 pennies more desirable to collectors and metal enthusiasts alike. Copper, being a precious industrial metal, adds an intrinsic value to the coin, but it's the historical and collectible value that truly sets it apart. Over the years, the 1958 Dewey penny has become a must-have for Lincoln cent collectors. Completing a full set of wheat pennies, from 1909 to 1958, is considered a classic achievement in numismatics. And since 1958 was the final year, every serious collector wants one in top condition to finish their collection. That demand helps keep prices strong, especially for well-preserved or high-graded examples. Auction houses and coin markets have seen stunning results when high-grade 1958 pennies go up for sale. Collectors will bid aggressively for those rare pieces that stand out, coins that look as if they were struck yesterday, with blazing red color and sharp, crisp details. Some of these coins have sold for thousands of dollars at major coin auctions, often breaking records for their condition and luster. And while most people might overlook a penny as spare change, collectors see something entirely different: a tangible piece of American history, a symbol of craftsmanship, and a glimpse into a time when even the smallest denomination was made with care and pride. Imagine finding one of these coins today, perhaps tucked away in an old box of keepsakes or hidden among other pennies in a forgotten jar. You pick it up, feel its weight, and notice that tiny D beneath the date. You wonder where it's been, whose hands it passed through, and what stories it could tell. Then you realize that this simple coin, minted more than 60 years ago, might be worth more than you ever imagined. Collectors and experts always emphasize that coins like the 1958 Dewey penny teach us something deeper than just their monetary worth. They remind us of history, artistry, and legacy. They show how something so small, a penny, can become a link between generations, carrying the imprint of a nation's journey through time. So, the next time you come across a 1958 Dewey penny, don't ignore it. Examine it closely. Look for that vibrant red color, the fine details in Lincoln's portrait, and the sharpness of the wheat stalks on the back. Who knows, you might just be holding a little copper miracle that could change your life. Because among the millions of 1958 pennies ever minted, there are a few extraordinary ones, those flawless, mint-fresh survivors that collectors dream about. And one of these coins, in immaculate condition, once sold for an astonishing $55,377.